Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Let's Get the Bible Study. It has been a while. I'm really excited for us to jump back into our Bible study series. As y'all know, we started in Genesis 1 almost a year and a half ago, and now we are in Exodus 40. To some people, that may seem like, ooh, that's not a lot for a year and a half, but not the way we do it. We go line by line, chapter by chapter, and we do one or two chapters a week. But this week, like I have here in the notes, we're doing a new format to where everyone can see the notes at one time. So in Exodus 40, we are finally at the moment of establishment, the setting up of the tabernacle, after all the offenses, the betrayal, the golden calf, after intercession, correction, and covenant renewal, all that stuff we already covered, right? We are now seeing the Father's dwelling place being set in order. This is not just construction. This is not just construction. This is restoration and alignment. Can you guys see me now? Okay, cool. And it serves as a powerful parallel to us today. Just as the tabernacle was established among the Israelites, then so Yahuah is establishing his set apart body among his set apart today. And so you're probably asking, the last Bible study was Exodus 35. Why is she all the way in 40? Well, if you've been following along with us since Genesis 1, you knew that we already went through Exodus 20 through 26, which covered a lot of what's happening or being retold in Exodus 35 through 39, which is, covering all of the what's in the tabernacle, what's required of the tabernacle, what was given with the willing heart, the craftsmen, who the craftsmen were, and what their names meant, and why these things had to be made a certain way with certain material. We covered all that already. So if you want to know about all of those things, go click on our YouTube page and go over the chapters in Exodus like 22 through 26, where we really got into the nitty-gritty details of the table, the lampstand, the carvings on the lampstand, the priestly garments. Like, all that is just being rehashed in Exodus 35 through 39. So that is why we are not going over that. We're going to go straight to 40 with the construction of all the moving pieces that we've kind of gone over um in earlier Exodus studies. Okay. So those chapters emphasize something critical. Yahuah is not vague about his dwelling place. We say that all the time. He's intentional. Y'all know I say that all the time. Nothing is listed or described for just ridiculous, unamusing, unimportant reasons. It all has a purpose. It all has a plan. And so Yah is specific about his pattern. He's specific about the materials, about the people who have access to doing said work, and the process and how it's supposed to be done. And here is the spiritual parallel for us today. All this points to a greater understanding that Yahuah sets the standard. He determines the quality, the quantity, and the order required for his dwelling to be established. This is not just about a physical structure. This is about people being formed into his habitation, a bride becoming. Just as the tabernacle required willing hearts, skilled hands, and obedience to instruction and precise alignment, so does the body of believers today. Foundational insight. Before Yahuah dwells among a people, there must first be repentance after failure. We talked about that with the golden calf. Realignment to his covenant. That was him telling Moses, rewrite the covenant. And when he rewrote the covenant, there were certain things that were highlighted at the top that weren't highlighted at the top the first time Moses wrote it. A realignment with a reevaluation of what caused the stumbling in the first place is now at the forefront of this realignment process. Obedience to his pattern. So this is what Yah requires of his people then and today. Exodus 40 is going to show this very clearly, that the presence of Yahuah does not rest on disorder. Remember, he literally separated himself from our ancestors because of our disobedience with the golden calf. He said, I can't even dwell among y'all. Moses, set up a temporary tent outside of the camp of the people. I cannot be near them. Okay, so we know that Yah's not going to dwell in dysfunction. Anytime our ancestors messed up or started acting foolish, Yah's spirit departed from Israel, and that's when all that foolishness happened. That's when we started losing all of our wars and all of our battles against enemy nations, because Yah was not with us because we weren't with him. All right, so Exodus. So let me see. I did just jump straight to Exodus 17, but let's go ahead and just read straight from the top. Do y'all mind? Y'all want to read straight from the top or just get straight into the notes? How y'all feeling? Okay, I
You
was
can read.
okay. So the first part of Exodus 40 through 17 is again going over all of the tools, the equipment, um, the artifacts for our reminder. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, set up the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, on the first day of the first month. Place the ark of the covenant law in it and shield the ark with the curtain. Bring in the table and set out what belongs on it. Then bring in the lampstand and set up his lamps. Place the golden altar of incense in front of the ark of the covenant. Put the law and put the curtain at the entrance to the tabernacle. Place the altar of burnt offerings in front of the entrance of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. Place the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar and put water in it. Set up the courtyard around it and put the curtains at the entrance of the courtyard. Take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and everything in it. Consecrate it in all of its furnishings, and it will be holy. Then anoint the altar of burnt offerings and all of its utensils. Consecrate the altar, and it will be most holy. Anoint the basin and its stands, and consecrate them. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of meeting and wash them with water. Then dress Aaron in the sacred garments. Anoint him and consecrate him so that he may serve me as priest. Bring his sons and dress them in tunics. Anoint them just as you anointed their father, so they may serve me as priest. Their anointing will be to a priesthood that will continue throughout their generations. Moses did everything just as Yahuwah commanded. So the tabernacle was set up. So the tabernacle was set up on the first day of the first month in the second year. So I want to pause here. So this is the part about the timing I want to mention, right? And it came to pass in the first month of the first day of the second year. Um, and I thought this timeline was crucial because now we get a timeline of like the tabernacle was not set up or anything until a year after they came out of Egypt, right? Their first Passover, their first Shavuot was them receiving the law and them making the golden calf. Like all that happened in the first year. All them trying to like figuring out Sabbath rest and like the manna and all that stuff. That was a year. All that happened in a year. That's a lot, right? We know they continue learning these certain lessons, but Yah's given us this timeline that the structure, the physical structure of everything that he's been explaining to Moses since Exodus 20 did not get built until the second year. So, what we can understand from the beginning of a new year, a new cycle, a new starting point, a new opportunity, a reset after failure. Again, I want us to really, really think about the golden calf situation. That was a really big failure. People died. Like, people died. Moses was angry. Like, all the things. Um, so the covenant was given. The people agreed, and then came the golden calf, the betrayal, and that judgment. Now, exactly at the turning point of a year, Yahuwah establishes his tabernacle, and this is very intentional. It shows that Yahuwah is not only an Elohim of judgment, but he is an Elohim of restoration and ordered renewal. And this is also connected to Passover because we know that Passover is in the first month. Passover occurs in the first month on the 14th day at evening. That means this moment, the raising up of the tabernacle, happens right at the beginning of the same month that marks Israel's redemption. So we're seeing Passover, redemption by blood, tabernacle, dwelling with Yahuwah. First, he redeems his people, then he dwells among us. So we are now establishing this pattern of obedience. Now the entire body of Israel is witnessing something powerful. Moses is walking in complete obedience to everything Yahuwah commanded. And he is doing it at the start of a new year. So we are technically still in the new year. Like we're in spring, right? We might be entering into our first month for some people. Some people are in their second month. of the new year, but there's still this air of like we're operating in newness. And we're also counting the Omer, for those of you who don't know. 7 Sabbaths since Passover is this, it's this process of like understanding you're in this newness, but also in this preparation phase. So this is not just construction, like I said before, it is a declaration. We are not carrying last year's rebellion into this new season, into this new cycle. Instead, what was broken is now being restored. What was out of order is now being set in order. What was defiled is now being removed or consecrated. Because remember, we talked about some things Yah wants to consecrate in you, but some things you just got to remove. Yahuah establishes his dwelling place at the beginning of the year to teach us this principle. Obedience is the foundation of a new beginning. It is not our emotions, it's not our intention, but alignment to his commandments. The first day of the month becomes more than a date, it becomes a pattern. When Yahuah gives you a new cycle, he is also giving you the opportunity to learn from your past mistakes, walk in renewed obedience, and become a place where his presence can dwell. Because a true new year in Yah is not just time passing. It is a people choosing to start again, but this time with alignment to his word. Again, think about the golden calf. Yahuah had Moses write a whole new, not a whole new, like it was the same words, but like he had to rewrite the covenant again because Moses broke them, but also Israel broke their fidelity to Yah within those first 40 days of marriage. And so when Moses is doing it again, or talking to the people again, they have this understanding of like, okay, this time when Moses goes up to that mountain, we're aligned with his word and we are not going to repeat that same mistake. He is an Elohim of second chances. All right. Verse 18. When Moses set up the tabernacle, he put the bases in place, erected the frames, inserted the crossbars, and set up the post. Now it's like, I kind of want to look at what that word bases is, because I also know like in other versions it doesn't say base. I think it says sockets. But in the Hebrew, that word is Edon. And it looks like Eden, right? But it's not Eden. It's not the same word. I already looked it up. It's not the same word. But this lets us know before anything sacred is placed inside, before worship begins, before service is established, the foundation must be set. So now we're getting into, Yah told Moses everything he's going to do, how he's going to do it. But now in 17, 18, and so forth, he's given us the exact steps. We get to see the exact steps that Moses took to set up this tabernacle. And it's going to show us prophetically, spiritually, what Yah is revealing about how to set up your house, your heart, a community that's in him. The basis, okay? The basics, right? Basics. Yeah. These are the foundational things. These are what everything is going to rest on. It's going to determine if this tabernacle, if this structure is solid, if it can support, does it have stability? If your sockets are out of place, if your foundation is rocky, what else is it? If the posts and the pillars and the crossbars are not set up and secured, the wind blowing that tabernacle is going to be all over the place. It's going to blow away in the wind. So, now we know that the bases or the sockets are like the pedestals or what everything rests on. It's the stability and support. But now when you get into the root word of this, so if you look up H134 in your blue letter Bible, it's going to be Adon. But if you look a little bit lower, it's going to say root word. If you click on the root word, it's H113 or Adon, which we know that means master, owner, superintendent of the house, the Lord of the house. Like that is what the root word of the basis is, also Adon, or our master. So I was like, oh, okay, like connection shooting off. If Yahuah is our master, if Yahuah is our owner, if he's the owner of the house, but we know that Yahusha is also the owner of the house in the father-son dynamic, then the basis, the foundation has to be your master, has to be the one that owns the house. If your base, if your foundation, if your stability and your support is not the Adon of all the universe, you're going to have a rocky foundation. So the foundation is not just structural, it's governmental. It sets the standard, it orders, it instructs, it reflects who is the master of the house. The importance of the foundation is consistent. And I put a whole bunch of scriptures, not a whole bunch, but I put a good amount, but there are way, way more. If you just type in foundation in your Blue Letter Bible app or any of your online Bible apps, you'll get a slew of scripture to talk about foundation. Some good, some bad. The stone which the builders refused has become the chief cornerstone. Psalms 118. Proverbs 10. When the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more, but the righteous has an everlasting foundation. Isaiah 28. Behold, I lay in Zion a stone for a foundation, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. Whoever believes will not act hastily. And we got Luke chapter 6. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built a house on the earth without a foundation. And immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. We know that parable that Yahushua is talking about, building your house on a rocky foundation versus on a not so sturdy foundation. And we have Ephesians chapter 2. Having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahushua HaMashiach himself being the chief cornerstone. So we keep hearing this chief cornerstone, this sure foundation. Those who build themselves on that foundation will not act hastily, that they're going to endure forever. Their base is who the master, who the owner is. I also want to put in here, I know I was going to give a pros and I was going to give cons. Ezekiel 13 warns about false foundations and how they're going to be exposed. All right, so this is Ezekiel 13 and 14, verse 14. This is Yah speaking. I will break down the wall that you have plastered with untempered mortar, and its foundations will be uncovered. It will fall, and you shall be consumed in the midst of it. This is how Yahuah deals with houses, both physical and spiritual, that are built on defilement, compromise, and perversion of his word. They may look strong, established, and beautiful on the outside, but when judgment comes, the foundation is revealed to be weak, untempered, lacking truth and fidelity, and the entire structure collapses. So when we look into untempered mortar, like that is obviously it's like it's a mortar that's not pure, it's mixed, it's weak. And so Yah's basically saying, y'all tried to build a tabernacle to me, but your bases were out of place. Your frames were crooked. Your crossbows were made out of things that don't stand up. And I'm going to be the one that's going to reveal how unstable your houses are. And I want to pause here for thoughts, comments, commentary, questions.
Um, I was thinking as you were saying that just now about the like the untempered part. I was thinking of like we may be chastised or we get warnings, but he always gives us time to correct,
Mm,
right? Like that's the other part about like he can be upset, but out of love, there's a point for you to be redeemed. There's a point for you to, get back into alignment. So when you talk about like foundations of the house or things like that, it's like, okay, if you see something's out of order, but then now it's always out of his goodness and his love, it's always a way to bring yourself back into order, right? Because he didn't totally like he he stepped away, but he's not shutting you off. Like there's time for correction.
yes. Yeah. He always gives us time and opportunity to course correct. Like literally the example with Israel fresh out of Egypt. Like he gave them an opportunity to course correct after that huge infidelity that happened, and it really shows his character, but it also shows that like he's also serious too. Like if you won't get it right, I'm gonna get it right, and if I have to get it right for you, it's not gonna be nice. Anybody else? Okay. Um. Oh wait, I scrolled too. I'll scroll too far up. Lost my place. Reset after failure. Connection to Passover. Foundation comes first. Okay. All right, so the spiritual reality. Moses, so we understand if we're looking at how Moses is like talking about everything, he's not beginning with the furniture, he's not beginning with the incense, and he didn't begin with priestly activity. And I think for me, like reading all of this is again, it's just more confirmation of how Yah orders our steps with us individually. Like he's gonna get your basis down. He's gonna get your foundation first before he's ever gonna put you in a place to adorn yourself. Before you even in a place where you feel, I guess this word comfortable with like intimate worship, but your foundational understanding of who he is off. All of those things are going to be like, are not going to be, um, I guess, concrete. And especially, he's not going to send you out to teach or to minister when your foundational understanding of him is tainted or untempered with untempered, it's been like plastered with untempered mortar. He's always going to begin with the foundation. I know me personally, when Yah first revealed himself to me in like in truth, it was like it literally broke my foundation of what I thought and who I thought he was. And I was like, why does it feel like literally the ground is opening up beneath me? Like I literally was like talking to Yah, like in the beginning of me choosing to serve him in spirit and in truth, it truly felt like my world was crumbling around me. And Yah was like, because it is. I'm going to destroy your faulty foundation so I can build you up on me on a sure foundation. Because without a righteous foundation, everything built on top of it becomes corrupt. And Yah was like, you were built on a corrupt foundation. So your understanding of worship, your understanding of ministry, your understanding of using your giftings, all of that was corrupt. You thought you could just walk in your giftings and it be mixed with deception and pridefulness and fleshly desires. Even though you did sprinkle me in there a little bit, that's not how your foundation is supposed to be. So let me destroy every faulty foundation that you were built on, and I'm gonna reestablish you on my foundation. And it's very shocking at first, but you get used to like, okay, Yah's doing this for my betterment. He's building me on him and him alone. So Yah is the true foundation. And this points directly to Yahusha because he is the cornerstone, the measuring line, the standard. The entire house, the body, the people, the priesthood must be built on Yahuah.
Mhm.
So we have this order of establishment. The pattern is foundation is set or lordship established. I'm using that word lordship because if you look up the word base, it literally says Lord, master, owner. Okay. Foundation is set. Structure is then built. Order, boundaries, covenant standards. I want you to think about your own process of you beginning to walk with Yah. He set your foundation first, and then he started to build structure around it. Same thing he did with our ancestors fresh out of Egypt. He removed them from what they were used to. It felt like their world was falling apart. Literally, their world was being judged and shaken up and thrown all around, all over the place in Egypt. And then he started to build structure around them after that foundation had been removed. The structure was understand Shabbat, understand rest, understand trust in me, understand that I'm where your water comes from. I can pull, I can make manna drop out the sky. I can make all these things happen out of nowhere. I'm going to be the one that builds structure and boundaries around you so you can understand my covenant standards for our relationship. Then worship is introduced
Mm.
because we know that worship is service. Worship is not just singing and dancing and like getting filled with the spirit. Like that's not worship. Worship is service to Yah. It can be all those things for you, but worship should always be in mind of like, I'm doing this to serve the creator of the universe. I'm doing this to serve the most high Yahuwah. Worship should not be self-centered. Worship should always be about Yah. So it's not the other way around. So before you bring in worship, service, and spiritual activity, you must first ask, what is my house, my heart built on? Because the foundation determines everything. Yah's salvation revealed through Yahusha is the only foundation that can sustain the house. And the walls and pillars are established through his word, his standard, his covenant structure. We've gone over this in so much detail when we were going over everything that Yah required Israel to get together to prepare for this tabernacle. When we were going through the lampstand, the table, we talked about the importance of not mixing tables or having multiple ideas and philosophies and ideas about love and service. They cannot be when you are building your house, because it's going to taint your worship. It's going to taint your service. It's going to taint how you operate in spiritual activities. Only then can the house function as it was designed, a dwelling place for his presence. Okay. Thoughts, comments, commentary? All right, so verse 19. Then he spread the tent over the tabernacle. So after he did the bases, erected the frames and the pillars, he spread the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering over the tent as Yahuah commanded him. He took the tablets of the covenant law and placed them in the ark, attached the poles to the ark, and put the atonement cover over it. I'll keep reading. Okay. Then he brought the ark into the tabernacle and hung the shielding curtain and shielded the ark of the covenant law as Yahuah commanded him. Moses placed the table. Oh, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna stop at 21. Okay. So now we're getting into the order after the foundation is set. So now the foundation is set. We understand who our master is. We understand who the owner of the house is. We understand what our stability is on. Once all that is established, everything else follows. Intentional order, progression. Yahuah is showing that his dwelling is not built randomly. It is entered through divine order. All right, so we know, as I keep saying this is not just about the tabernacle. This is about us. This is about the body of believers. This is about the body of Yahusha, about becoming a set apart people, about preparing to be a bride. So think of this tabernacle in the physical sense in Exodus 40 as the tabernacle is the bride getting dressed. Okay? Before you even put on the dress, you're taking a bath, you're going to scrub, you're going to exfoliate, you're gonna do all the things. Then you're gonna lather yourself in oils and all the other things, and then you're gonna put on the dress, right? I haven't been married, so I'm just assuming like, okay, obviously you would take a bath first, right? You would get your toes done, you would get your nails done, like you would do all these things, right? You would probably go get a facial, so you get the base first. You get you yourself cleansed and primed and trimmed up and all the things manicured. You do that first before even thinking about putting on the dress. You making sure you good, your body right. Sometimes you be like, okay, I'm gonna go on a fast. I'm trying to drop 20 pounds before the wedding date. Like, you know when the date is, right? You know when all this is happening. So you have time and preparation to get you, your physical body, from the core, from the inside together before you even think about putting on dress. Sometimes you probably won't even go dress shopping until you drop the amount of weight that you want to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's this tabernacle. That's this tabernacle. That is us as the body. Are we so focused on just the dress and looking good? Or are we concerned about, am I getting my insides purged and cleansed before I'm even thinking about how I look?
Mm-hmm.
Like to the naked eye, right? That's why y'all says clean the inside first and then the outside will be clean. Like, duh, you know, when you're getting married, you don't focus on like, oh, I'm just gonna like put makeup on, but my skin is a mess. I'm inflamed. I got hives. Like, that's not gonna cover up. I mean, it can cover up. People do magical wonders with makeup these days. But me personally, me personally, I don't like putting makeup on a face that is already broken out and dealing with a lot of things. I'm like, okay, well, let's get to the root of like, why am I having these flare-ups? Why am I breaking out? Why am I getting blackheads and pimples? Let me focus on getting my skincare together. And we know skincare starts on the inside. So all these parallels to our physical health and our spiritual health are intentional. The tabernacle is the bride. We are the
Mm-hmm.
tabernacle. We are the bride. Moses started with the bases, the foundations first, before even covering it, before even decking it out in all of its beautiful golden bronzy glory, right? So what does that say about us, right? So the first thing he did after he did the bases, he put the he covered it with a curtain. So, or not a curtain, he covered it with the tent, the physical tent. It is covered, part one. or step one, establishing protection and separation. The tabernacle is first covered and enclosed before anything functions. There must be covering, separation, distinction. This represents being brought under covenant protection and authority. So think about this as this might not be a perfect analogy, but I think about like engagement. You are in your engagement process, you are already covered, you are already separated, you are already distinct. Nothing's even in the tabernacle yet. Your heart hasn't even fully said yes yet, but you are already covered, you are already separated, and you are already distinct. Represents being brought under covenant protection and authority. Part two is the ark is placed. So remember it says, then he brought the ark into the tabernacle and hung the shielding curtain and shielded the ark of the covenant law as Yahuah commanded. So the ark is then placed, and the ark represents the heart. So the heart of the dwelling. The ark of the covenant is set inside of the tabernacle. This is the heart of the tabernacle. Inside the ark is the law, right? If the ark is the heart and the law is written on our hearts, the law is literally inside of the ark. And then over the heart sits the mercy seat, or the atonement covering. This reveals that the word of Yah is central and mercy covers within covenant. Y'all have heard me say this 1,000 times. Atonement does not remove the law, it covers and upholds it. Mercy does not remove the law, it covers and upholds it. This is what it means to live within a lawful covenant. All right, the ark is brought in, entering covenant life. The ark is then carried into the established tabernacle. I want you to think some scriptures. Yahushua saying, I'm going to prepare a place for you. I'm going to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many rooms. We are being prepared so that we can move in to that house eternally, permanently, forever, right? The ark is carried into the established tabernacle. This signifies entering into a new life, entering into a set-apart dwelling, becoming a people who now live with Yahuah at the center. This is the transition into a life as a lawful bride. Then the veil is hung. We're going to get into that. Yes, the veil is rent, and then all this. But first, we got to establish the veil first. The veil is being hung. Establishing intimacy boundaries. The curtain or the veil is placed to enclose the most set apart place, which represents guarded intimacy, restricted access, and sacred closeness. Intimacy with Yahuah is not casual. It is entered through order, obedience, and participation. So when I was writing this portion, my first raw thoughts as setting this up in like a step by step. I was looking at it as literally as a bride and a groom. So the bride, like the husband has prepared the house and all the other things. The wife comes in, she enters into the house, and then the veil is hung because that is separating the most intimate parts. Behind the veil is where you would do the do, or you would become intimate. You would consecrate your marriage behind this veil. There is a special intimacy between you and the Most High that no one else has access to, and that's restricted. Like, yes, we talk about being transparent on here, but there are some things that you go through in the deep, intimate parts of your covenant relationship with Yahuah that other people are not privy to. Mm-hmm. Right? And so this is like you entering into the house with your husband. There's the house, but there's also layers in the house, and in the bedroom area, that's the most intimate space. So the veil is being hung. There's a door, there's a closing off of access to the master bedroom. That's what my thought process was when I was writing about these intimacy boundaries. Like, yes, you're in the house, your kids are in the house, but your kids are not allowed in the back room. Sometimes the kids are not allowed in that room, right? So we are all in the house, but there are certain areas of the house that like everybody's not welcome to see. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so intimacy with Yah is not casual. It is entered through order, obedience, and participation. So only you and Yah know the deep, intimate ways that He has literally comforted you, covered you, talked you through hard things. Like only Yah knows the depths of the things that he's had to heal and strengthen in you. Yes, after we get done, we'll maybe like talk like, oh girl, like, like he really helped me with this and da da da. Like we'll share it then, but in the midst of it going on, no one else is in there with you. Okay. The table is set. So let me keep reading this next part. Da, 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 da. Moses placed the table in the tent of meeting on the north side of the tabernacle outside the curtain and set out the bread on it before Yahuah as Yahuah commanded him. So now the table is being set. Basically, knowing where you eat. We covered this back in Exodus 20 something. We talked about the table, the preparation of the table being overlaid with gold and acacia, with all those things, right? But now we're going to get into it again. So after the ark is moved in, after the veil is rung, then you come out from behind the veil, and now Yah is telling Moses, set the table up here. The table is where the showbread is placed. This answers the critical question, where do you eat? Because where you eat determines your source, your alignment, your covenant. The bread is also prepared. Knowing what you consume, the bread is set in order on the table. And now the question is, what are you eating? This ties directly to covenant. We say this all the time. What you consume is what you agree with, and what you agree with, you become. If you are eating from the table of Yah and you're eating his bread, then you are going to become unleavened bread. You're going to become a body that is full of his word. If you agree, because you are consuming it, you will become that. This is about intentional consumption of what sustains your covenant life. It would be crazy to say that you are in a beautiful, covering marriage, but you leave your house to go eat at another man's house. Why are you getting fed by somebody else? I know some women don't even like their man eating another woman's food. Like, why are you going over here to eat something else? And I cooked this whole meal. It also, even again, I'm not married, but when I do cook, I cook for my family, and I be like, are y'all gonna eat what I made? Like, oh no, it's like, dang, I done did all this work to cook, and you don't even want to eat what I made. I get like, I don't say offended, but I'm just like, dang, like I did all this work, and I cooked all this food, and I really was anticipating you eating it and seeing how good it was. Like I literally will cook and be like, did you taste it yet? Did you taste it yet? Did you like it? Like waiting for you to eat it so I can get feedback on like how the meal was, right? So can you imagine the chef, the cook, the person preparing the bread and the table, anticipating you eating and tasting how good his food, his word is, and you said, "No, I'm gonna go eat somewhere else."
Mm.
That is so good.
What?
Because somebody, another woman food, like if she not family, that's offensive. I can't explain why, but that is so good.
That's so true, Samari. I'm telling you, I be waiting. I want the feedback when I make the meal. And my daughters are like that too. So we got some food from her like Sunday. And I didn't eat till later because I was on the Zoom call for this, thing, right? And I ate the food and I was like, oh my goodness, that food was good. So I picked up the phone, I called her, and she said, you know what, Mom, Dante had just said, so what did your parents say about the food or whatever? You be waiting. You want to know. And so that is so, so good. And you do get offended, like you said, you make this food or you feel away, not necessarily offended, but you feel away. Like I just poured my heart, like you said, my blood, sweat, and tears, my feet hurting and everything. I ain't here making this food. And you finna go to a restaurant and get some fast food takeout? Are you kidding me?
Well, it's also the whole analogy of when you're cooking, right? It's because your heart is in it. We're praying over that. We're anticipating the communion. We're anticipating the relationship piece of it because,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I could feed myself and not worry about nobody. But then when I'm doing
Right.
it with the intention on sharing that, that's a
Mm-hmm.
part of like covenant relationship.
It
So
is.
in this whole teaching that you're doing, it's like you just go eat somewhere else. That somewhere else, what are you agreeing with over there with somewhere else?
Right.
Because I know what my heart or what we're doing over here or how we're building, and we're talking about the bride and the bridegroom or family, like you're building and doing that. But when they go somewhere else, you're agreeing with their intentions. You're coming into agreement with, I mean, if they moving funny or not, like all kind of stuff. Now, when you really kind of digest it, it's like, I don't know. You eat at the table with people who got a nasty heart. Is that why you come back acting fickle? Like, did you pick a little bit? Like, your heart might not have been like that, but if you sit day after day after day eating with people who lie, cheat, steal, backbite, don't mistreat people, like all of those types of things, right? How can you not say you're not agreeing with that? Like, they'll pause and say, dang, you always trying to make stuff deep. But the way you just rolled that out right there, it is because it's relationship, it's agreement, it's covenant, right? It's come commune with me, not just I fix the plate, right? And even like Latanya, all this week we've been talking and stuff. You're shopping, you're preparing, and she ain't skipped a step, y'all. Like we talking about if anybody could cut a corner, other people might have. She's not. It's all with the intentionality that I know exactly what I want. So when somebody's heart is so pure like that, if we're thinking that's how the Father wants to sit down with us, right? And be that pureness, he wants to see us win to the extreme degree, right? Not like, oh, I could just substitute a little bit over here, or I could just cut this corner, nobody will know type of thing. Full integrity, full character, full love, just the fullness of all of that. I think that that is just so big and beautiful and sweet and like it's making me emotional just thinking about the whole thing.
And I want to piggyback off of what you just said, sis, because it's at that moment when they don't, like you said, we don't get that feedback because they haven't tasted the food, right? So it's like an expectation that we're kind of like it's not, we're anticipating this moment, right? So to take it a step further, what do we do and how do we handle ourselves in that moment that they don't do that, right? Because it could easily allow us to fall back on what the Father has told us if we allow that. Hear me out. If we keep cooking a feast and nobody's sitting at the table, you know what I'm saying? How is that going to discourage you in the future? Are you going to allow that to discourage you? Or are you going to keep cooking? And say, okay, Father, well, I know you prepared this feast, and you're the one who did this, so you're going to bring the people that are going to eat from this plate that you prepared.
Yeah, my thing is you got to eat for you anyway.
Correct.
So again, you're cooking for yourself and you want other people to be partakers in the meal. That yes, you're also cooking for them, but like you have to cook for you first. Remember we talked about you got to do you first and then you're able to serve other people, right? So this understand like I'm a cook anyway for me. You can come eat this and I definitely want your feedback, but like I'm gonna eat it regardless, right? So if we're talking about the word, because we are talking about the word, we're talking about his word, this bread of life. I'm eating this up. I'm preparing the meals. You're preparing the Bible study. You're preparing the words, but it's ministering to you first. Like you're consuming it first. So that is going to encourage you to keep doing it anyway because it's part of your life anyway. It's part of your lifestyle. It's part of your function. It's part of your routine anyway to cook up a meal and eat it. We should never get into service for other people that neglect while neglecting ourselves.
That's it right there. You just said it. That was the key. That's it right there.
So again, like Latanya said, it got to minister to you before you can minister to anybody else. And if you keep that understanding, that foundational truth that you would have to do this anyway for your own sustaining, for you to be sustained in your own right with Yah. So regardless of somebody else coming to sit down and break this bread, this word with you, you was gonna eat it regardless. It's gonna get ate.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to wow, because when Taryn was speaking, or maybe it was Latanya, whoever said, why you going over there to eat with them people? If you sit down and eat with liars and thieves and stuff, like you gonna pick that up. I immediately thought of that verse in Corinthians when it shows like, and if you call yourself a brother and you do things contrary to what the word say or something like that, then I'm not even gonna eat with you. And that was just like really good. Even what Samaria just said, like, I'm gonna eat anyway. I'm doing this for me, and y'all can eat, after. But even that, like, pouring into other people who don't receive it, or like we said, like wipe your feet. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just immediately thought that verse in Corinthians because I think about it all the time. I'm like, dang, Paul was not playing. He said he's not even going to eat with them folks. So that's what I thought.
But we already been separated, we've been consecrated and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know what I'm saying? We if you looking at it, you done prepared yourself, you've done all this preparation work. Now you want to go and contaminate it?
Right.
Yeah. So
And
that's,
I was
yeah.
thinking about it from the standpoint of like the kids, because it's like, say you fry chicken or no, you bake chicken, right? But then your kids' friends want fried chicken, right? But you over here thinking like, I'm covering them. I know how my heart is covering them. I know, all my intentions and everything, but something that might have looked more appealing or they want fried or, because we're going somewhere. We want to eat a little healthier, just different or whatever the case is. So they might not know it in the beginning that that's what they're coming in agreement with. Because immediately, like even as I'm talking about it right now, I'm gonna go over here. So, in the flesh, like, oh, our feelings might be hurt because, oh, they ain't like what we cooked today and they going over there. But is that the first sign of like a rebellion? Because it's all about choice, and you don't see it as a big deal. And we've been talking about this for a year now, little by little. It's a little bit of compromise, a little bit of not paying attention, a little bit of, but the food analogy, like that could be on such a bigger spectrum of like, you don't realize that that been slowly poisoning you or whatever. I mean, we always have options or whatever, right? But breaking bread, I'm hearing communion, fellowship, and all of that. And just how I know that a lot of us on this call right now, we all been more intentional about what we're putting in our bodies and love and preparation. And we're thinking about the totality of bigger things, not just I want something good for today, right? Like, or what's pleasing to our palate. We're thinking about it on a bigger level that now I'm like, dang, every time we go sit with people, you know, like what is their heart posture? What is all their stuff? Because I could immediately say for myself, I could separate and say, well, I don't do all that over there, but then is it still like the tiny bit of compromise of fellowship? I might not eat the trash they eating, but like it's still a lot of different things that can run in my mind. But immediately I was thinking about my kids, how things again in my 40s, almost 50s now, what I'm learning. And I wouldn't have seen that like that when I was in my early 20s.
You know what I thought about when Nat was talking about how Paul was moving. I also thought on the opposite end, like Yahusha did sit with sinners, right?
Hmm.
And then when I was thinking about that, it made me think about the lunch table at school. Like think about like kids. They all got their little lunch boxes, right? You open up your lunch box and you're sitting with a souffle of people who have their own food that was prepared for them by their parents. And I'm just imagining like in this vision that I'm having, Yahusha and all the people that he was sitting with who were sinners, um, as little kids, and we have like maybe 5-year-old Yahusha and like the tax collector, and all of them are like young, right? Yahusha opens up his lunch box, and obviously it's all clean food. It's unleavened bread, and everybody else is eating like unclean food or whatever, representing their sins. And he's sitting with them, and he has his food, and he has a surplus of it. He's like, I can give you something from, I don't want anything that you have, but I'm sitting with you guys to offer you a better food, a better bread, a prepared meal that will change your life. But I'm not going to eat from your plate. I'm not going to eat from whatever was prepared at your parents' house or whatever was prepared at those tables, but I'm sitting with you as a way to share my good food that's from my father. And so I think one, obviously understanding like the nuances of, if Yah has called you to sit down with people who are backbiters, gossipers, that you do not partake, but you sit there as a way to be like, hey, I got something better. I have another way that you could probably like eat this. Or maybe don't eat that, but eat what I got. And so when you're sitting at tables with people who are hypocrites or who are struggling with certain sins, you're sitting there as a way as a way for them to see what you eat and partake in what you eat, and giving them like the choice to eat from what you brought, but you are still set apart and distinct. Even when you're sitting amongst sinners, even when you're sitting amongst those who are choosing to walk in sin and hypocrisy, you're sitting with them with the desire for them to see how good your food is, if that makes sense. So there's always gonna be nuance. Sometimes y'all be like, don't even go over there, don't sit with them. But sometimes he will call you to sit with them. But you need to know that when you're sitting down like Yahushua sitting down with sinners, not to join in sin with them, but to offer them bread of life, to interject in their conversation or their way of life. Again, because you're already in that space, you offer food, but don't take food from them. All right. Next part. Okay, so the bed prepared, no which consume. Yep. So that was good. Now we got into the bread and understanding what you eat from and the importance of. Oh, I also want to speak to. Now do we understand why it was so, like the way that we said, like, I don't know why I get so upset when my spouse or someone that I love eats somewhere else and I prepared this food. Keep that understanding and think about how y'all felt when we left, and think about how y'all felt when we left to go eat at other nations' altars and partake in other nations' spiritual practices and all these other things. He's like, oh, you don't want to eat what I got. You don't want to eat what I made. That's mad. Like the way that we felt slightly like I done prepared this food for my people, for my bride, and the bride done left the house to go eat dinner at Ashira's house or at Baal's house or at whoever, insert little g, insert other nation. And it's just like, well, I'm not like honoring those other guys. Like, yeah, but you getting food from them. And you know how I feel about them. I don't even want you over there. And you went anyway, like to eat over there. Like that's mad disrespectful. So if you can imagine how you feel slighted when you cook up a meal and then your loved one, your husband, your sister, your friend knows that you're preparing the meal and they choose to go get fast food anyway, and they come home and you be like, oh, I'm full. I don't want nothing you got. I don't want nothing that you cooked. That's like, if you could be upset about it, imagine y'all's heart. Imagine y'all's feelings concerning that behavior on a consistent basis. Like, he got this good word every day, every moment, and you're choosing to say, nah, I'm gonna eat somewhere else. That is why it was such a big deal. That's why it was a picture of infidelity, wandering.
I'm
When
so glad he's not like us. I
yeah,
am so glad.
Right? Lord
stop.
have mercy. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Say again, Samaria.
I was like, for some of us, we would just stop cooking. Like, well, y'all don't want to eat anyway. Y'all kept preparing the meal and just offering, like, hey, whenever you want to eat it, come on.
Because
Like,
I just think about like in my little natural life, how sometimes like my little feelings and stuff be hurt. But I think about the Father, it's all of us and all of our things and that we be doing. But he still gives us a way of escape. He still makes a way. He still provides a way of escape. He still provides a ram in the bush. And he knew. He knew we were gonna do oh my goodness. I'm so glad. I am so thankful that he is not like us, that his thoughts are higher than ours. We can't begin to comprehend the depths of his heart and his love for us. I am so, so thankful. Man,
yeah.
ooh. Because, some of us would have just been and thrown us away. Look, I ain't doing this no more. This is, okay, that's how you want to treat me? We would be so lost. Oh my gosh. I'm done, y'all. It just hits different. You know what I'm saying? When you think about the magnitude, the level, because this is just my household, this something that simple, whatever. And constantly all day long he dealing with stuff. Where we just spitting in his face. But he sent Yahusha, still. to redeem us back to him. And I'm just like, ooh wee.
I think about back at like what the part about the ark and the mercy seat of the atonement covering. It's just like the reason that Yah tarried so long, even here, was because of the mercy that is imbued within the covenant. Like the heart of
Yeah.
covenant, there's mercy
Yeah.
there, right? So even so, like we know that Yah's salvation was already here. Like his character is the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that we continue to leave his house to eat at other people's houses, and the mercy that was extended to us for so long before a judgment came, before a chastisement came, was
Mm-hmm.
because of the mercy that is imbued within the heart of covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you like we was walking around entertaining other Elohims for generations, for
Long time.
thousands of years.
Yes.
He sent warning after warning after warning, and it was hit by his mercy. It was
Yes.
by his mercy that entire time, because he's like,
Mm.
I got so much mercy for my bride that you know what,
Mm.
she keep breaking my law, but and we wasn't even asking for we wasn't even repenting,
Right.
and he gave us
Oh,
all
forgive us,
that
y'all.
mercy and
Oh,
all that
yeah.
grace. You know, like
Mm.
that is whew. So when you think about
Mm.
marriage covenant, like Yah is the perfect spouse. And when I look at how much he dealt with from a toxic partner, a toxic bride,
Mm. Ibabas.
and now he's challenging us to walk like him in covenant relationship with each other. It's just like how, like, can you withstand? Can you give mercy where mercy is
Mm.
not deserved?
Mm.
And
Tamaria, can we just take a moment right here? Because I don't think we need to rush through this. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
yeah.
I it's
hallelujah. What you just said was like that in itself on repeat. He is the perfect husband. And even me being married at one point and being divorced, right? He's shown me what that grace and mercy is, even for my ex spouse, right? And what that truly means to like love a person the way that y'all love someone, okay? That it has, you just love them because he is the son of our father, you know? Like he's so, but I feel that that right there is like she just said, we got to take a minute and just sit with that for a second because that was a lot.
And I would say that I need to ask for forgiveness in that area because I'm not as loving when I deal with people. You know, we want a certain thing from him and how he deals with us, but I can't say that I work at that with not just my spouse, with family or my children, you know. So it's like a self reflection moment for me.
um Going through these notes, and specifically on the part that we're kind of like say lying on right now, um it just really highlights how much love that we should be carrying, and the reality that there's so much more of Yah's love that I could be expressing and giving to others because I've received so much. um yeah, like that's why, was it Hosea who had to marry the prostitute? Like, it was the perfect analogy of how Yah deals with us. And it is so undeserved. And it's so like, wow, Yah, you really continue to give all of yourself over, and we have a track record of not appreciating him. the way that he needs to be appreciated, the way that he needs to be honored. And it's like we are the narcissistic partner in the relationship. Like as a people, not seeing our own faults, not seeing how much someone loves us and cares for us and wants to do for us. And we just blatantly ignore it, like no consideration. And even with all the discrepancies in our character, he didn't throw us away because he's a covenant Elohim, like because he believes and knows in total redemption. And that was at the forefront of his mind any and every time that we dishonored, disrespected, and blasphemed him. Like that is a love that I've never experienced in the natural. Yes, Taryn, he is patient and forgiving with us. Mm, yeah. So, this next part is about the source of light, which is very similar to the source of food, but it's more of like revelation and spiritual insight. So basically kind of what we're already sitting in right now, as we're sitting in like the revelation of like how intentional and how loving and how patient he is, in the revelation of how much he loves us, the spiritual insight of how severe his love is for a people that did not consider him, or was not considering him. Even now, in us considering his ways, we are still elevating in our revelation of how deep it really is. We know what our source of light is, and it determines and it's transforming how we see, how we understand. Literally, we are understanding deeper now how much he loves us and how much we've hurt him. The light of his word, the lampstand, is literally illuminating and revealing to us how deep this is, the understanding, and how we walk and how we're going to now interact with him and how we interact with each other. So before you can get the light, before you can get the revelation and the illumination and the spiritual insight, the depth, the this the overwhelming sense of awe, you're not going to get that if you're not, the first part, eating the bread that he prepared, eating at the table he prepared, entering into the house. You're not going to get the deep level of intimate knowing and revelation of how deep his love is if you're not eating his word, if you're not eating what he's prepared that's just for you. And again, the more that we eat his word, the more that we consume and become unleavened in what his word reveals and teaches us, the deeper the revelation, the softer our hearts become, the more tender and receptive we are to be able to feel and experience like his love, his mercy, his compassion. All right, so the next part is the altar of incense. He placed the lampstand. I'm reading verse 27. He placed the lampstand in the tent of meeting opposite the table on the south side of the tabernacle and set it up the lamps before Yahuah, as Yahuah commanded him. And then Moses placed the golden altar in the tent of meeting in front of the curtain and burnt fragrant incense on it, as Yahuah commanded him. So the altar of incense, as Latanya pointed out a couple weeks ago about the incense being the prayer and the fragrance and the smell and the aroma of our continued participation in intimate relationship with Yah, is what we kind of paralleled with the spiritual understanding of the incense, or the lamp, or the incense. And so the altar of incense is placed before the veil. So the incense are right before, we talked about that most intimate place where the secret things are dealt with, and the most sensitive and private things are dealt with you and your heavenly Father. And so it represents the continual prayer, sweet aroma, and ongoing communion, ongoing relationship, ongoing prayer, ongoing interaction of covenant nearness. And so we know that the incense burnt continually, day and night. They were never out. So showing us that this is not an occasion, this is not occasional interaction. It's not like an anniversary or something. This is the constant relational nearness. And sometimes when we're in the world and just consumed with like the woes of the world, and like we're in the world but not of it, but when we're in this world, sometimes we can get so sidetracked that our intimate space, our continued intimacy, um, doesn't reflect constant nearness, doesn't reflect constant relational nearness. It begins to kind of shift, sometimes very unintentionally, into occasional interactions, and that should not be in a deeply intimate, loving relationship with the Most High, who has given you anything and everything according to His mercies and His grace, that we would choose to interact with Him occasionally and not consistently. Any questions or comments? Okay. All right. Next part is the entrance. Then he put the curtain at the entrance of the tabernacle, and he set the altar of burnt offerings near the entrance of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and offered it on a burnt offering and grain offerings as Yahuah commanded him. I forgot to mention something. As we've walked through all these different parts, I forgot to put in the notes too, that every time Moses um every time Moses set up the lampstand or the altar, he did the function of that thing. So it's like as he's building, he's doing the service of the worship process. Like as he put the lampstand on, he lit it. As he established the incense in front of the veil, he lit it and burnt an offering, burnt a grain offering. Like he's not just setting it up, he's setting it up and functioning in it after it's being set. So Moses is actually the first person to operate in every step of what happens on the inside before Aaron and his sons even begin their priestly duties. Like Moses is doing it all first. And I saw that when I was writing the notes, and I forgot to write it down, but I thought we're gonna connect it later on at the end about the order of things. Like we know Moses being a parallel or a foreshadowing of Yahushua Hamashiach. And I think that was really important. I'm gonna have to add it to the notes later. But the reality of seeing as it's being built, Moses is literally building it, but also establishing what the worship looks like as it continues to be established before like people are even allowed to enter in, which is Yahusha had to do all of it first before we could before we could even enter in. Okay. The curtain or the door, which is Yahusha, guarded access via Yahusha. So now we're getting to the door, the entrance of the house of the tabernacle. And so the curtain at the entrance is set, and this establishes separation from what is outside, protection from what is, and protection of what is inside. And not everyone has access to covenant covering. Not everyone has access to the intimacy, and not everyone has access to the closeness. We kind of covered this in the deep closeness of what's inside, but even outside of being from behind the veil, just being in the tabernacle itself is already a covering, a separation, an intimacy, a closeness. Access is governed by alignment to obedience in Yahushua the Messiah. Again, you cannot get in, you cannot get past, you cannot even get in the entrance of the tabernacle if you do not surrender to Yahushua. And then we get to the altar and the burnt offerings. Sacrifice comes first. So before entering in fully, the altar of sacrifice is positioned. This reminds us covenant requires sacrifice, and covenant requires confession and surrender. All of these things come before like that deep closeness. You do not enter into covenant life without dying to self, acknowledging and renouncing sins, offering what is required. Again, with the marriage of the analogy of the bride and the groom, you are now entering into your covenant house. Your husband has went into prepared a place. He's bringing you in, but you do not get to enter into that marital house if you have not first let go of your maiden name, or let go of where you were before. You're taking on this new identity as a bride, as taking on your husband's name. You're acknowledging that he is now who you live with. He is now who you are married to, and you are renouncing past sins, past connections, past relationships. Those things are being renounced before you even before you even get engaged most of the time, but specifically even more before you're married. And offering what is required. You offer your entire self. That's what's required of us. Like, you are a living sacrifice. You are offering your entire being, heart, mind, soul, strength, to Yah in this marriage. Okay, so we got to the door. We got to the burnt offerings, the burnt offering, and we're getting to the basin. Washing before entry. So yes, you're sacrificing. You're bringing your sin offering, your confessions, but after you do that, then there's the basin where you wash yourself of whatever ashes or whatever impurities are on you before entering in. So finally, the basin is placed for washing, and this represents the cleansing, the renewal, and the preparation. Before entering into his presence, you must be washed, you must be made clean, you must remove defilement. And we know that that's a process, right? I'm just saying these in very emphatic terms, like, oh, boom, boom, boom. But we know that it is a process of continual washing. Like, you're being washed in the word consistently. Little by little are impurities being removed. But the ones that you are aware of, you confess them. You put them on the altar. They burnt up. You wash your hands. You accept Yahushua Hamashiach as a high priest and king. Now you can go inside. Like, these are the things that we are called to do for covenant relationship. Conviction on needing to be a better wife to Yah. Hallelujah. So now we get this full pattern. And it reveals something very beautiful and also powerful. We do not jump into intimacy. So again, if we keep this relationship understanding, this covenant marriage understanding, whether you are a woman listening to this or whether you are a man listening to this, men, you are also brides. Okay? So all of this is so you can be a better son or daughter to the Most High. We never should jump into intimacy, and this should be a pattern for how we also handle relationships, specifically marriages. You should never, if you're jumping into intimacy, you've already done it wrong. Okay? We don't jump into intimacy with Yah. We should never jump into intimacy with each other. Before you get to intimacy, you have to be brought under covering. All right? You have to be aligned to the word. You have to be invited into covenant life. Then you have to be taught what to consume. That's his word. If you're already aligned to his word, then you should already be walking in the teachings of what to consume, but it gets more detailed once you fully enter into covenant life. Then you're given light or the revelation for understanding, and you're called into continual communion, an ongoing process of being taught, learning each other, removing things, elevating, sharpening, all the things, deeper intimacy, deeper transparency, full honesty and trust. All these things happen with continual communal a communion. And we also know there's required sacrifices. You're going to be sacrificing things all the time in your covenant relationship with Yah. The longer that you sit in communion with him, the more that you are continuing with your prayer life and you're seeking him and reading his word and surrendering to his ways, more things are going to be brought up that you're going to have to separate from. More things are going to be brought up that you're going to have to put down. More things are going to be brought up that he's sharpening your habits in righteousness as you are walking away from things that do not profit. And cleansing before entry. So we are cleansed before entry, but we are also continually cleansed. So these are the things that make up an intimate relationship with Yah, and should be the things that make up an intimate relationship with your significant other. So insight for us, again, the making of a bride. We are the bride. The body of believers are brides. We are one bride, not brides. We are one bride, Israel. So this is not just a setup of structure. It is the formation of a bride, a people who know their source, guard intimacy, walk in obedience, and live in continual awareness of his presence, because Yahuah does not dwell in chaos. He dwells in what is ordered, cleansed, aligned, and fully surrendered. All right, so Exodus 40, verse 30 through 33. And I'm going to get into the parallels with the priesthood, and just bear with me on this because I think these are good parallels, but y'all can let me know. All right. He placed the basin between the tent and the meeting and the altar and put water in it for washing. And Moses and Aaron and his sons used it to wash their hands and feet. They washed whenever they entered the tent of meeting or approached the altar as Yahuah commanded. All right. Is that it? Yeah. All right. So in these verses, we see the final act of preparation. The basin is set. Moses, Aaron, and his sons wash, and then the courtyard is established and enclosed. So now we're going to see this prophetic pattern. Moses foreshadowing Yahushua, I said that earlier. But Moses stands as he was fully obedient. We can agree with that. He established all things according to Yahuwah's commands. It says it right here. And he was mediating between Elohim or Yahuwah and the people. He foreshadows Yahushua as Moses being Yahushua is a perfect high priest, a sinless mediator, and one who establishes true access to the Father. So Moses was all those things for Israel in Exodus, right? And Aaron and his sons are the priesthood. But in this analogy, with Yahushua being Moses, Aaron and his sons are Israelites, natural branch Israelites, the priesthood. Okay, so Aaron and his sons represent the priesthood, but only the Levites could do this role. But in the Melchizedek order, all of Israel are priests. So those who are called to serve continually before Yahuwah, they had to be washed. So we have to be washed. We have to be consecrated. We have to be set apart. This reflects Israel's calling to be a nation, a kingdom of priests, set apart from generation to generation. So the same functioning role that Aaron and his sons were supposed to be for the nation of Israel within the 12 tribes, this one tribe, Levi, was responsible for drawing all of Israel near to Yah. So in the Melchizedek order, all of Israel, all 12 tribes, are responsible for washing, consecrating, and being set apart so that we can draw all nations unto Yah. That's why I did that parallel of Aaron and his sons being the Israelites, all of the Israelites, Moses being Yahushua. And then the congregation of the people represents all the nations of the world. Well, not like fully, but like all the nations of the world who choose to serve Yah is the rest of Israel who is not a part of the priesthood. Okay, so we are not called as Israelites, natural branches. We are not called to function in this role without cleansing. So you being a natural branch, you knowing that you are a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you've rediscovered your identity in the land of your captivity, like prophesied. Cool. That don't mean nothing if you don't want to be cleansed, consecrated, or set apart. You have now rejected your identity, your role, your responsibility, your inheritance as a nation of priests because you didn't want to wash, you didn't want to consecrate, you didn't want to be set apart. All right. We are washed because of Yahushua. What required continual washing under Aaron is fulfilled through Yahushua. Through Yahushua, we are cleansed, we are granted access, and we are enabled to function in the priesthood. Not by our own righteousness, but through his redemption and his righteousness. Now, this is the courtyard, the gathering of all the people. The courtyard represents the outer place gathering, which was already all of Israel and the mixed multitude. I'm going to say that again. The courtyard has always been and will always be a mixed multitude of people. So when I'm using this analogy of saying all of Israel is Aaron and his sons and all of the courtyard is the other nations, that's not saying anything out of pocket because it was already Israel in the mixed multitude. In my analogy, I'm just using all of Israel representing Aaron in the priesthood, Yahushua being the high priest, and the mixed multitude being the mixed multitude of other nations. It is a place of drawing near, observing, and anticipating. It shows that many are invited to come close, even if not all initially share the same level of access. We're going to get into this level of access later and how it changed to where everyone has access to the intimate parts of the tabernacle. But we have to understand the order that initially everybody did not share the same access. Even with Yahushua, everybody didn't share the same access when he was on the scene because he said, I came for the lost sheep of Israel. It's not exclusion, it's setting an order and parameter of how Yah redeems his people, how he redeems the whole world. We're going to get into that. All right, so the order of covenant, Israel first. Yahushua declared that he came for the lost sheep of Israel. This establishes divine order. Restoration begins with the sons of Jacob. This is not a superiority thing. This is a reality thing. Read your word and see what it says. Restoration begins with the sons of Jacob. Consecration begins with the covenant people. Priesthood is restored first. Okay? If we even, I'm even taking natural branches out of this conversation for this portion here. Yahuwah came to restore the priesthood. Because without restoration of the priesthood, then the people could never be restored. So, even in this order of dealing with just the natural branches first, Yah was like, let me deal with the priesthood first. Because they're the ones that allowed corruption and dysfunction to pervert all of Israel. So if I want to cleanse all of Israel, I got to clean the priesthood. Yahushua is the cleansing of the priesthood in the Melchizedek order. And because of Yahushua, because of Yah cleansing the priesthood through Yahushua, then restoration could be offered for Jacob. And if restoration is offered for Jacob, then restoration is offered for all the other nations. Thoughts, comments, commentary, questions?
The cleansing is real. That right there, just gotta let that sit for a second.
Because y'all know when we were going over the priesthood back in like Exodus 30, we talked about how it flows from the top down. The priesthood was always the accountable, the leadership roles, right? Obviously the kings too, but the kings had to surrender and submit to the priesthood and the prophets. So like the priesthood was here and then everything flowed down. So when the priesthood was corrupt and the kingship was corrupt, all of Israel was corrupt and contaminated. So it's only right that we keep that same order. That same order is still the same within the renewed covenant. It does not exclude anybody from salvation. I hope we all understand this. It's just about order and flow in covenant and how covenant functions. All of the whole world did not have a covenant with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They had the Noah covenant that he wasn't going to judge the whole earth in water again. But this intimate covenant of closeness, of intimacy, of proximity to Yahuwah was only through the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and through them, then the whole world would be saved. But he got to get the house right first. Yah even says, I judge the house first. I'm judging Judah and Israel first. So if he's going to judge us first, judging and chastisement should lead to correction and redemption first. And then it spreads outward. Even with the building of the tabernacle, we see it starts at the center and then it builds itself out. I will call it like a ripple effect. You drop a pebble in the pond, it's the one little circle, and then it just spreads out. So when we're talking about the restoration of Israel and then the restoration of other nations who want to attach themselves or be grafted in or be sojourners within Israel, it starts with the Israelites first, and then it spreads out in a ripple effect to everybody else. Okay, because through Israel, covenant is, so why Israel first? Because through Israel, covenant is maintained, priesthood is established, and access is extended outward. Literally everything I just said, but in bullet points. The veil removed, expanded access to intimacy. Originally, the veil separated the inner place of intimacy. It restricted access to priests only. Think about it. Even other tribes within Israel were not allowed this deep inner access, right? It protected holiness, but through Yahushua, the veil is removed, or the veil was torn. This changes everything. So now those who were once in the outer courts, again, all the rest of Israel in the mixed multitude, those who were in the outer courts, even those not naturally born of Jacob, but who attached themselves to the covenant, can be brought into deeper intimacy. This is not by passing order, but by being brought through the, listen to this, same process of cleansing, alignment, and covenant. You're not going to come from another nation and think you get to bypass the process of covenant alignment and claim intimacy to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No. You get access, but you got to go through the same process. This means the pattern is still Yahushua is the high priest, Israel is the established priesthood. The nations and mixed multitude are those being drawn in, but now through the removal of the veil, access is no longer limited to Jacob. It is extended to participation in intimacy. Those who were once observing from the courtyard can now become participants in the inner dwelling if they enter through covenant alignment. And this is where Paul comes, neither Jew nor Greek. He's not removing the order. He's saying everybody got access to enter in the covenant through covenant alignment, through Yahushua. It's been extended to you. Just like now all of Israel is considered priesthood, not all of Israel had access into the tabernacle. Okay, so now we're getting into the courtyard. The courtyard is established last. Okay, and why this matters. The courtyard is set after everything else is in order. It shows access for the many comes after the foundation is set, the priesthood is cleansed, the dwelling is established. Then the people gather, then they are drawn, then they are invited deeper. I want to harbor here a little bit, or hover here a little bit longer, because can you imagine, just imagine if, well, we don't have to imagine, we actually have a full living, breathing example of what happens when the foundation isn't set and when the priesthood isn't cleansed and when the dwelling isn't established. What happens is what Christianity looks like today. The foundation wasn't set, the priesthood wasn't cleansed, in the sense of no one understands the function of entering in through covenant alignment. When you allow any and all nations to come in, they begin to change the foundation of the house. It is no longer a house that was set and established by Yahuwah's word, his ways, his patterns, his covenant. And then you have a nation of people who present as if they are a holy priesthood, But the foundation was not set, the priesthood wasn't cleansed, and now it is a full blown perversion of his word. It's literally the faulty foundation that Yahuah was talking about in Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 14 that I read earlier. That he's judging now, because he's just like, y'all then create a whole nother house and using my name, but I'm not, that's not me. So that's what it would look like if that's what it looks like when we decide to go out of order and say, "Oh, everybody can enter covenant now," but no one wanted to go through the proper process. No one wanted to surrender to the function, and so all these mixtures of things and perverted doctrine became started to literally be engraved on the walls of a tabernacle that claims that they're of Yah, but it's not. Okay. All right. So we are not just being saved, we are being formed into a functional priesthood. People who are washed, consecrated, aligned, and dwelling in order, so that others may not only gather around, but now through Yahusha be invited beyond the outer courts into the intimacy of the inner dwelling. All right. So for 34, then the cloud covered the tent. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Questions, comments, commentary? I thought I heard somebody's mic. Okay. Um. All right. So 34 through 38. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Yahuwah filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled on it, and the glory of Yahuwah filled the tabernacle. In all the travels of the Israelites, wherever the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, they would set out. But if the cloud did not lift, they did not set out until the day it lifted. So the cloud of Yahuwah was over the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all the Israelites during all their travels. All right, so now we're talking about the glory that's filling the tabernacle. Everything's set, everybody's washed, everything's consecrated, everything's oiled down, everything's anointed. Um, Everything has been set and established. Everything is in functioning order now. Foundation is established, structure is built, priesthood is washed, covenant elements are placed, the system of approach is honored and respected, and is being operated. Then, and only then, did the cloud, the tabernacle of the congregation, and the glory of Yah fill the tabernacle. So again, I always talk about that then, like those if-then statements. Then is letting us know, Yah saying, I'm not feeling this place until boom, 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 boom happens. Okay? So then is not casual, it reveals the pattern. Yahuwah's glory does not rest on disorder. His presence does not feel what is out of alignment. The glory came after obedience, precision, consecration, and completion. This is a difference between this is a difference between inviting his presence versus hosting his glory. And so I want to talk about this word right here, this completion, right? So we know that like Yahuwah, through Yahusha, we are now like the completion is there, right? So we can host his glory, right? But we're not going to be fully complete into the coming of Yahushua, like in the second coming, right? But it is complete. It is done. That precision, that consecration has been like that work has been done through Yahusha, but it's still being worked out on us. It's finished, but I am also being finished. So there's this dual understanding, like I am constantly going to be being consecrated deeper, walking in deeper obedience, walking in more precision to his word. I'm complete, but I'm still in progress. And that is a hard concept, I believe, for some people to grasp, because it's a Hebraic concept of perfection. Perfection is not being perfect, it is being yielded to the process of being completed and walking in perfection. And so I always say, if we're stuck in like this Western understanding of words, we're going to miss the fact that I am complete, but I am still being worked on. Which is why I can host his glory while still not being perfect, but I'm walking in perfection. Okay, the cloud and the glory. And Moses was not able to enter the tabernacle of the congregation because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of Yahuah filled the tabernacle. So we know that the cloud represents covering, guidance, and divine or heavenly nearness. But the glory, the kavod, we talked about this some chapters ago, the kavod, the glory, his fullness, his authority, his manifested presence, um, is filling this tabernacle. It's so heavy, it's so real that Moses could not enter. And you're thinking, like, why? Moses was up there on the mountain in the clouds. He was in the presence of Yah. He saw the back of Yah. Like, he was there in this presence, like in this Moses had been in the presence of Yah before. So why is this different? And I was thinking, like, why? I'm like literally asking, like, in real time, like, why is this different? Um, because the tabernacle is a physical structure that Yah wanted to inhabit completely. So when we think about Yahusha being the physical tabernacle representation of Yah, Yah fully encompass the tabernacle, like Yah's spirit fully encompass Yahusha. His manifested presence, his fullness, his authority. Moses couldn't do that. That's why Moses is similar to Yahusha, but not a perfect parallel, not an equal parallel. Moses could not enter because even though Moses, like I said, spoke with Yahuah, led Israel, set everything in order, still could not enter when the glory filled the space. So now what we're seeing is when Moses was in the presence of Yahuah on the mountain, there was the understanding that, like, this is a space where I'm communing with you, so there is space for you to be here. But in this tabernacle, this is all me. This is all mine. I fill up all of this. You are no longer, let's say, like Moses was no longer needed, if that makes sense. Not that Moses wasn't important or crucial to the development of Israel, coming out of Egypt and being in the wilderness and setting up the standard and being the mouthpiece of Yah. But Yah was like, I don't need you to be my mouthpiece. I'm just gonna be. I'm just gonna be here. The people are gonna see it. They're going to feel me, see me, experience me without you having to say a word. So they'll understand that there's a separation. Like, I use you as my vessel. I've used you as my vessel, but I need the people to see that, like, even if you don't say nothing, they see me. They feel me. They've experienced my manifested presence outside of you. Okay, why? Because this moment reveals Yahuah is not controlled by man, and that's exactly what Yah was trying to show the people. Moses understood that. Moses knew that, but the people were still figuring out who Yah was for them and to them. Again, they're like, oh, don't talk to us like Moses, you talk to us and let Yah talk to you. So even in them not wanting that closeness, Yah was like, I'm gonna show you anyway. That, like, Moses doesn't control me. Y'all know that, but, like, I need y'all to see. I need y'all to see this, that Moses can't even come in here. So Yah is not controlled by men, even faithful leadership. His presence is not something we manage. Yah was setting this, or he's like, look, I'm in charge. I'm in control. I got all of this. It's something we prepare for. Yes, something we prepare for. Moses was the head in the leadership of preparing the space, preparing the people, preparing himself. But he already knew that he didn't manage nothing. Like, we know that Yah managed everything. Yah told Moses how to do it, when to do it, how much to get, what not to get. Moses understood that order, but the people were still in a process of understanding that for themselves. The goal was never just structure, it was his presence. Everything we've studied, the washing, the anointing, the prayer, the order, the atonement, none of that was the end goal. It was all for preparation. The goal was always Yahuah dwelling among his people. Elohim with us, Yahusha. And so this is for us today. I say there's nothing in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and all the prophets that is obsolete. It is training us. It is for our preparation. We often want the glory, the presence, and the manifestation of his power and his spirit, but we resist the order, the cleansing, the obedience, and the consecration. In Exodus 40, it's clearly showing us that glory follows order. Presence follows obedience, and dwelling follows preparation. We keep saying, "Oh, Father, like, come back now. Like, I'm tired." He's like, "I'm giving y'all time to prepare." Are we using this time to be a bride without spot or blemish? Are we preparing our space so that we can receive more of his presence, his glory, his manifestation in us? Are we doing that? If we are, then we're going to see more of himself being shown through our actions, our hearts, how we deal with each other, how we love on each other, all the things. How we correct, how we give space for communication and conversation and restoration and redemption of relationships. If we are doing it, it's going to be manifested in us in an undeniable way, just like when Yahuah filled that tabernacle and Moses couldn't even go in. Literally a repeating of what Israel saw after Yahusha left and left his glory with his apostles and his disciples. They began to operate and move in the manifested authority and glory that is from Yah. All right, that's all I got for tonight. Thoughts, comments, commentary.
Powerful message. Um, you hit it right on the head for what I was praying for today. Like, this was exactly what I've been praying about. And I was asking Abba to reveal to me his order, and that's exactly what he allowed you to do today. And I just want to thank you for continuously just allowing him to use you in this way. Um, I know you hear us say it all the time, but I just, he's gifted you with the ability to explain this and break it down in a way that most of us cannot do. And I'm just very appreciative of the fact that he is using you to be the one, to teach this word to all of us. And so I want to thank you because I've been tussling all week because it's each fruit of the spirit. I feel like each season he gets each of us and he's like, all right, I'm going to teach you patience. Well, this one is long suffering for me. So it's like, okay, Abba, what is it that you are trying to stretch it out like all the way, Um, and it was order. So bringing things back in order, and then you think of it like, but okay, I'm like, but how do you want me to bring this back in order? Like, I know your order as far as you are above all things order, but I need to know like your literal order.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you just gave us today. So this is definitely something for us to sit on for this week, and especially this Sabbath. I'm going to go deeper into what you've done for us, and really establish this in my home, because our home is like the tabernacle. Like, we're preparing like literally. And as you were speaking, like I got to go back because I was just like a computer downloading it all. But this has been the process of me coming into my home. And I keep asking him, like, Abba, what is it? And he's like, well, you haven't reached that next phase yet. I'm taking you through this step. I got to take you through this one, through this one. So everything has to be done in his order. And so sometimes we look at it as like, oh, it's a delay. Or why is it not going, the way that I'm anticipating it to go? And he's just like, well, because how how the tabernacle is ran, okay? It's not how nobody says it's gonna go, it's how he says it's gonna go. So, and it's no different with us. So thank you so much, sis, for that.
I almost forgot there is actually one more part to the Bible study. I almost forgot. Um, it's about them not moving until the cloud lifted. So, basically, Yah's presence leads. So, kind of, laying back enough, Dominique being like, I don't know, like, what's the next step? Again, like, the cloud leads, his presence leads. Yahuah leads. So, we are now living in a relationship. Okay, so when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not journey. That's it. I'm not going unless you go, Abba. Like what Moses said, like, I'm not going if you're not coming with me. We gonna sit right here. Basically, that's literally what's going on here, right? So this is not just about a building or a body or a house anymore. Now it's about movement, right? Israel, we, you, me, all of us, natural branches grafted in, or sword joined, all of us, we are no longer moving by impulse, by fear, or by assumptions. We move by the presence of Yahuah. When he moves, we move. They move. When he rests, they rest. We rest. When I move, you move. Just like that. Sorry, I couldn't resist it. It was just right there. But literally, like that's where we have to be. Currently, consistently, all the time. And I know it is a new muscle to function in that, because we've never functioned like that before. We may have thought we were, but we were still mixing in, oh, when y'all leaves, but also here's my plans mixed in. Now it's just like, you were moving, now you're staying here. You're like, dang, why am I staying here so long? It's like, well, he hasn't told you to move yet. He's saying rest. Just remain. Can you remain in this? It may feel like uncertainty, but you don't want to move on assumption anymore. So now you're sitting here asking y'all for clarity. Because I'm not moving on impulse, fear, or assumptions anymore, when he's telling me to rest, now I'm resting and I'm seeking clarity in the midst of me resting. Before he say, now I can move.
Thank you, sis. That was it right there. You nailed it.
So, and this is intimacy and submission, right? We are all learning how to be very, very intimate with Yah for the first times in our lives. And every new year, every new month is going to be the first time in our lives experiencing a deeper amount of intimacy with Him in surrender. It's always going to feel new. The depths of surrender that He's calling you in every next season. Even if you've done something similar before, it still feels brand new. Okay, so this is what it means to truly be a people of covenant. Not just knowing his commands, but being led by his presence. It's easy to do things like keep the commandments, eat clean, honor the feast days, like that. Those are just like easy things. Again, those are basics. We can do that. I can be obedient to what the words say. But now when there's not something written down like what to do and not to do, like I'm already doing the what to do's and what not to do, but now there's something that he's calling me to do in my life that's not explicitly written. That's where your faith and obedience and submission comes in.
I also think along the lines of just what Dominique was sharing, um, I'm thinking about the different dimensional aspects of Moses, because he he knew he wasn't necessarily asking all the questions, but the people put pressure on him. So he was so connected, and so he's just like, okay, Lord, what do you have me to do today? Like he was postured like that all the time, but the people put pressure on him. It was the whispers, the circumstance, the some people probably got up and they like, ooh, glad the cloud didn't move, so we don't have to pack up today, right? Some people probably were in that space. But I think about in our everyday lives how maybe some things aren't necessarily a concern for us directly, but we're moving because it is the family, it is financial, it is the house, it is the job, it is the stuff. It's all of those things that not just with us bringing it into submission, it's us shutting out the noise or us, like you said, that submission of giving it all over to him. It's really relinquishing everything. And when I think about like, I got some stuff too, Dominique, that I'm like, okay, I'm not asking why it's not moving no more. It's just now I'm like, okay, I hope I'm marking stuff off the list, right? As far as like being truly postured to walk in that victory, because I can feel like, oh yeah, I've overcome this, but what if it returns? Maybe I haven't rooted it up all the way. And I can do that for me, but I might feel a way if, my kid pushed me a different way, a loved one or something. Like it could be some kind of thing or circumstance that could trigger me. So I'm just thinking about how Moses was, even if he got to sit over there and he wasn't allowed to, we don't get a story or point of view of Moses ever falling out. And only he was irritated when it was, strike the rock type of thing. But he was such a good shepherd for the people that he was okay with the lesson and all of that, with the weight, with the what's next, he really got up and he's like, okay, Father, it's whatever you have. But the people, it's like sometimes your lesson, it has a lot to do with the bigger picture, not just yourself type of thing.
Mhm. Yeah. I think a lot of this lesson was obviously about like the setting up of the tabernacle, so like the structure and all those things, but like beyond that, right? The structure is so so important, right? Not even though I'm writing on here, not just having structure does not negate the fact that the structure is so important, but the deeper thing in after the structure is being surrendered to his movement. Again, it's still that order thing. He's like, get your structure down, get your obedience down. Again, keeping commandments is the bare minimum, right? But once you got the structure, the foundation down, now we're going to learn how to surrender to how he moves you, how he transitions you, how he sharpens you, how he covers you, how he propels you, how he tells you to be still, how he tells you to move forward. Like that's a different, that's full intimacy. Again, marriage, you got married. Y'all got the structure. Y'all love each other. Y'all respect each other. Y'all honor y'all's vows. Y'all have full trust. I know that you're not going to do nothing to hurt me. I'm not going to do nothing to hurt you. I can be vulnerable with you. You can be vulnerable with me. We got all the basics down for an intimate relationship when everything is good and dandy. And now in this marriage, now you're saying we're going to move. Oh, I'm changing careers. Oh, I feel like going back to school. Whoa, that's new. That's movement. Now y'all have to learn a different type of intimacy and trust within a surrendered state of not knowing the full outcome, but trusting and surrendering to the movements of the marriage. I'm talking like I'm married, y'all. Look. So connecting this to Yahusha and the removed veil. Now through Yahusha, the veil is removed, access is granted, intimacy is extended, but the pattern does not change. We must still be cleansed, aligned, consecrated, so that we can become a dwelling place filled with his glory. That is what we are waiting on. That is the fulfillment of the fall feast days, the second coming of Hamashiach, the Day of Atonement, the wait, was it day of, no, trumpets, the alerting that he's coming, Day of Atonement, the purging and repenting, the things that we're already doing now is the preparation. And then tabernacles, where he gonna come and we gonna dwell with him and he gonna dwell with us forever on a new heaven in a new earth in New Jerusalem. That is what we are preparing for him to fill this place. When I say this place, this earth with his glory. And if you are prepared and you are a body that is prepared for his presence, when he comes, you won't be consumed, but everybody that's outside of him will be consumed. They gonna be gone, we gonna be left. We're staying here. We inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. So when as we are preparing for the fullness of his glory to return and set everything right, because we have been good brides and have prepared and cleansed and aligned ourselves, are stayed in consecration, when he come, we gonna be good. We're gonna dwell with him forever. Not just individually saved, but as a body filled. All right. The tabernacle is not just a structure in the wilderness, it was a blueprint because we know that we are now the tabernacle. So I'll leave you with these questions. The question is the foundation set? Is the priesthood consecrated? I'm saying this, but is your foundation set? Is the priesthood that's supposed to be in you, is it being consecrated? Is the order established? Are you establishing yourself in Yah's order? Because if it is, his glory will come. And when his glory truly fills a people, it's going to govern our movements. It establishes our identity, and it removes self-direction. All right, so our closing scripture. For the cloud of Yahuah was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was upon it by night in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. And so this is the final picture, is that we have the visible presence of Yahuah. We have continual covering, and we have divine leadership. We are not a people who are wandering aimlessly, but we are being fully led by Yah. Now I'm done for real. That's it for real. Thoughts, comments, commentary.
I
Yeah.
was just say that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
But
girl.
no, I was gonna say that as I was typing and stuff, you was like reading exactly what I was typing. I was just like, well, shoot, I should have just sat down and just sat there and listened because I'm just like the spirit is speaking. When I said like we are the tabernacle now, and then next thing you know, 2 seconds later you said now we're the tabernacle. I just thought that was pretty interesting.
I love when that happens. Yes, like that's what Yah, like tabernacle is synonymous with the bride being prepared. And if we understand that, then we should know that like we are a tabernacle in preparation. Like we are literally being set up and established. Like all the things that Moses was doing, getting the bases, doing this, covering this, bringing that in, like it is literally the parallel of a bride being prepared for her wedding day.
Exactly like the foreshadow he was just doing until
Yes.
now.
Yes. And so instead of it Moses building this tabernacle, it's Yahusha preparing and building us. And the question is, are we surrendered to being built according to the order, the structure, so that we can be fully prepared? I think someone told me like I think it was Brother Antoine. It's a Shabbat assembly out in San Antonio, and I was on one of his Bible studies, and he was saying I don't know how true this is, but it sounds legit. So I'm have to look at it. I haven't looked at it myself, but I still like it for the reality that the bride and the groom concept of like us being prepared as a bride. He said in Hebraic cultures, the bride did not pick out her own wedding dress. The husband did, or the fiance did, or the bridegroom picked out the wedding dress. And so it's just like you don't get to put on your own dress. Like you don't get to like whatever the bridegroom says the dress should look like and how you need to look on your wedding day, that's what you're doing. That's what you're preparing for. And so I thought that was so dope because it's just like we don't get to finesse what our dress, what our look, what our function should be like if we're surrendering to the bridegroom Yahushua, if we're surrendering to Yah's design. He set the standard on how we should look, how we should function, what we should be eating, what we should be celebrating, how we should be treating each other. So I was
It's almost like Christianity picking out their own dress.
like, yeah,
Oh,
you done picked out again. Like I said, you done built a whole nother tabernacle that looks nothing like the tabernacle that Yah said is established. So when he come back and he looking at you like you don't look like my bride. That is not my wife. That's not my wife. This over here, that's my wife. Because I picked that out. That's what I said to do. Yeah, yeah, yep. She doing all the things that my bride would do. You decided to
Picking and
do
choosing what they wanted to wear, what they wanted to do.
you choose what you wanted to wear, and now the groom showing up and being like, I don't know if y'all seen this. Oh my gosh, it was Noah Lyles. He's a track star. I think he's
Yeah.
and him and his fiance at the time, but now wife, like they were doing a dress reveal, and so he was turning around. He turned around. He looked at her dress like, oh, I didn't know we were going with the princess cut. And then everybody was like all upset with him in the comments, which is I still feel like again because they're not Yuta to Torah or whatever, so it's all worldly commentary. But I was looking at him just like, dang, that's what Yahusha's gonna be like when he come back and see his bride and being like, that's not the dress I picked out. Mm. And
Exactly.
it's just like his response was, for a wedding day in an American sense, it's kind of sad and disrespectful. Like she was wanting her husband to love the way she looked in her dress, but bringing it back to us talking about this tabernacle, this preparation for a bride, and the bridegroom picks out and sets up what he wants his tabernacle, what he wants his bride to look like and function like, and you decide to go do something that y'all ain't never discussed, that he don't like, and you got this thing on. He turned around like, oh, no, that ain't gonna work.
You, you,
That's literally.
listen, this has flipped me upside down just now. Do you understand me? Do you know how deep this is? What you just literally can't. Your husband, right? How we look, our spouse, okay, in the physical. We can desire something that we're like, oh, I love this, right? It's so beautiful on me. Me, I love it, right? Now, the purpose of the wedding is it's the two, to be able to join together and become one, okay? So that means that two have to agree on everything, okay? So even with just the physical aspect of thinking of this dress, if you're walking down the aisle and you're in something that he does not like, it's no like the Most High is not going to be okay with us putting on these garments that he's not, not literal garments, but you know what I'm saying. Like he's not
No,
going to.
literal garments though. He said, "I'm gonna give you a change of garment," and you said, "Oh, I'm gonna tailor the garment."
Yeah.
These garments that I bled for, you
Yes.
tripping? You're tripping.
That's girl. This is wild.
So yeah, y'all. That's all of our notes. Any other thoughts, comments, and commentary?
I just want to say that this forum is a perfect, it's named Let's Get Deep because it is supposed to make you think outside the box and to think about whatever allegory, like all of those things are tied metaphorically to what we see in the natural and connected to the spiritual representation. But let's get deep Bible study. That's it right there. That's
Hallelujah.
we are really doing that right there. Cause I'm over here still got to get right over I'm gonna be mad over the food thing. And then now you talking about the dress, but it's everything else it represents. But you see what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But real talk, it could be your pride. It could be like if sometimes when they say cover up, like wear a long dress or whatever, it might not have nothing to do with, well, why I can't wear the short, right? Immediately you're judging, but it's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reason, and you don't even want to give it a thought. Or even when we talk about linen versus all this mixed material, even when, so it's like it's coming from a place of love. And if you just sit with it to see the bigger meaning other than self, dying to self.
Yeah.
Because in my head, all that submission, when you said, oh, the man picked out the dress, but these are men who took care of you and your whole family without in the whole community. Everybody knew, right? They're paying a price. They're paying a dowry. They're paying they're for real standing before, and we don't do that
That's it.
is as much as we fickle and whatever right now. So that's why we think we got so much say. That's why we feel like my opinion matter. You ain't gonna I'm just I can talk for me. You who you talking to? Like it's that inner pride, but it's the true submission of that the groom, how he's supposed to care and take care of you.
Yeah.
And then I mean, most of us, I would say, like in alignment, there's things that I probably might have had a particular interest for, but it probably does bring me more joy that if my husband is happy in that space,
Yeah.
right? Like, so because it's me serving, because I know he's doing everything to protect me, to stand as the priest of my home, to cover my kids and those things. So it blesses you both ways instead of us thinking that we're relinquishing control. But I'm just saying it all comes back to let's get deep because we're talking about those tough things. So you name this, it was perfect, it was fitting, the study was beautiful. Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Maria, are those last little bit of notes that you went over going to be added, or are
Um,
they?
did I not add them on here? Oh, oh man, I guess I didn't. Um, I have the official Google Docs that I put it
Put
in
it
the
in the chat
I did put it in the chat. Uh-huh.
and not on the IG chat or on
I
here?
put it on the IG chat and the chat in here in the
Okay.
yeah.
Because I clicked on it, but I didn't see them, so that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
Yeah, that last little bit was good. I need to have those notes, please, and thank you.
Okay. Um as Taryn was talking, I thought about this concept of like the groom has done everything for you, like which is why Paul says like, wives submit to your husbands, but also as your husbands submit like to Christ, and how the Messiah is the bridegroom in that posture that the men should be modeling this sacrificialness that like I will die for my bride. I will do these. I have literally given all of myself to her. I've given Yahusha gave him his whole self to Israel, right? And so in return, that the man leaves to cleave to his wife, and then the wife cleaves, right? It's still the order that the man is fully surrendered to the sacrificing, the dying to self, and then the wife does the same. So I like that during this Bible study we kind of talked on like two things. One from a female perspective of like the cooking, right? Like again, I know some women don't cook like that, but in the concept of like people who do love to cook, and when people don't eat your food, you're kind of like, you don't want to eat what I made. And then we get the wedding dress analogy of the man picking out the wedding dress, and how if he sees you on the wedding day with something that he didn't pick out, it's very offensive. Very similar conversations are going on, but I think they prick people differently, right? You may not care about food like that, but you may care about like how you dress, or vice versa. So I feel like on both scopes, we should be able to consider each other, and how we treat each other when it comes to I've prepared, I've worked, I've slaved over this meal, and you don't want to eat it. You ate somewhere else. Just like I worked, I slaved, I paid the cost, I got this wedding dress, and you don't want to wear what I got for you. They are the same conversation. It is about consideration, it's about honor, and it's about respecting. And they both require submission to what has been prepared. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and anybody else, any conversation, questions, things that maybe we didn't consider that maybe that you saw that you were considering while we're going through this before I end the call. If not, I will see y'all. I don't know about next week. We'll see. Probably next week for Oh snap! We're done with Exodus. Hold on. I almost forgot. Okay, look at you. Look, we've gone through all of Genesis. We've gone through all of Exodus, y'all. Like it hasn't even been 2 years yet since we started this Bible study, and we've gone through Genesis and Exodus. So I think we should give ourselves a hand clap. Woo! We went through Genesis and Exodus together as a body, as a community, as sisters, and now like I feel like we're just gonna keep repeating different insights because the foundation is set. If you're listening to this Bible study, it's your first time jumping on or listening on the replay, I challenge you, if you have the time and the patience, go back and start studying with us since Genesis. There's so much foundational work and understanding that that we have, again, starting at the beginning, that sets our foundation, like we talked about tonight, the base, the structure, the foundation, the sockets, the pillars, all that is established as we've gone through Genesis and Exodus. And y'all willing, I'm gonna pray about it, y'all pray about it too, if y'all want to walk, if we want to walk through Leviticus like we've done Genesis and Exodus. Cause like I said in the beginning, when I first started this Bible study, being obedient to Yah, me and T were like, we're gonna start Bible study and do it together, and we opened it up to the community of online sisters together. We didn't know how we were gonna do Bible study. We just said, hey, let's just start in Genesis. We were just gonna get through Genesis together. We didn't really plan if we were gonna do Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. That wasn't really, we didn't really make a plan. We just like, we're gonna just go however Yah leads us. So we've closed out the chapter of Exodus. And now we should all be in prayer about, I'm gonna be in prayer, y'all pray for me on how Yah wants us to move forward, if he does want us to go and start covering Leviticus, because then we start getting into more of nitty gritty details within the law, statutes, and commandments. And like I thought Exodus was a challenge, getting into the nitty gritty of the tabernacle and the instruments. I was very, very nervous. I don't know if y'all remember, I was talking about how nervous I was for us to go through Exodus chapter by chapter on detailed things. And I'm feeling that way again with Leviticus. Like, I like reading Leviticus for myself, but like, I've never read Leviticus in a way to create notes to like share with my brothers and sisters in faith. And so I'm getting that sense of like, I don't know if I want to deal with Leviticus. Like, Leviticus be Leviticus-ing. Like, it's, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna pray about it. We're gonna pray about it and see how y'all moves in that. But other than that, I'm gonna cut the camera and then we can like do further conversation and we can pray out.